we stand on the accomplishments and the blood, sweat, and tears of countless other people, countless generations. And when you're standing on the shoulders of giants, how easy is it to look down on them? So several years ago, I opened an online clothing store that I called Namaste the Day, and I still call Namaste the Day. I am a certified yoga instructor, and I've been teaching yoga since 2011. When I began the clothing store, it was a few years later, and basically, I wanted a way to supplement my income, and I wanted a way to express my creativity. I find that I express my creativity, like everyone else, in many different ways. And one of the ways that I love to make art is through music, but also I like to make art through images and pictures. I'm not much of an artist myself in terms of drawing, but I luckily am able to utilize certain programs and come up with designs that I find to be interesting. And sometimes I have other people create designs for me. So, Namaste the Day, the phrase comes from a combination of two different things. One is the word namaste, which is spoken at the end of yoga classes, and it's a sign of respect. It's non-physical. People often put their hands at their heart. They might bow a bit, lower their head. Um, so it's a sign of saying, my essence respects your essence, and in the deepest sense of essence, we are one and the same. So that's a way of showing respect or reverence to another person. And I believe that's a very important element in life and in human relationships. And if we don't have that, all kinds of problems emerge from lack of respect, from lack of, again, reverence, even. Like, a lot of bad things pop up. Okay. The other aspect is Namaste the day. The other component is seize the day. Carpe diem is the Latin phrase for seize the day. And most people have heard of that. They know what carpe diem means. And it's a sense of healthy urgency about life. So, Namaste, the day, is meant to convey this idea of using each day as an opportunity, as an urgent opportunity to show respect to others and to ourselves. And that there's something urgent about that. There's something that's necessary. The world is in need of that. That is something that it seems from my vantage point to be, if not missing, it seems to me it could make life better for us, from my perspective. Us respecting each other, us having a little more sense of dignity and honor regarding each other. And that would all play into less dehumanization, less using, less of a utilitarian mindset regarding how we treat each other. Now, those lower mindsets, that I call them lower because they're part of our developmental pathway, perhaps. It's a way we think about things. We're all at times capable of not giving people their due humanity. right? And we could argue that anytime we pass a homeless person and don't, engage them, that somehow we're doing this thing. It's one of those things where it could be taken to any sort of, I don't want to use the word extreme, but any sort of standard deviation away from what most people do. The point is that if we can increase our sense of respect and honor all around, if we can just turn the knob up a little bit. I'm thinking of the book The Compound Effect, and how in that book it's kind of good habits build momentum like compounding interest in a bank. I think respect is similar. If people feel bits of more respect, people finding that people are respecting them instead of criticizing them for what they are. And instead of people needing to go around and say, "Hey, I'm demanding you to respect me for what I am," there's this sense of we all just treat each other with more respect, which comes to the notion of how we view life. And if we view each other as animals and nothing more, then how we treat each other versus how we treat each other if we see each other as something like made in the image of something approximating God, right? Made in the image of God. Everyone's a child of God. Everyone is a temple of something holy. Everyone is um, a children of the most, everyone is a child of the Most High. You know, that sort of mentality almost in evokes in a person a sense of you can't treat somebody poorly even if they seemingly deserve it, because even if they treat themselves poorly, you can't do it to them because you get the fact that they're approximating divinity even if they don't. And if we we would have to be careful with that approximating divinity, because we know how that could also create the another situation where everyone is inflated in their holiness, and they demand not to ever have their toe accidentally stepped on, which is part of life. So when it comes to respecting each other, a lot of it is going to be a worldview. It's going to be how we understand things. And if it comes to respecting, let's say, something like nature, I don't think we can really expect people to respect nature too much if they don't respect themselves and if they don't respect other people. If there's not just a general connection to the feeling and the action of giving respect, of giving honor, of holding a particular posture and orientation toward another person in a particular situation. If that's missing, um, again, there's all kinds of problems. And when that's there and when we experience it, it feels good. It feels right. It feels um, it brings calm. It brings peace. It brings a sense of stability and safety for both parties. So at the basic level, if we want to reduce like war, and we want to reduce conflict, one thing that helps is when people feel safe, when people feel like there's some space, when people are less reflexive, reactionary, and more take a breath, make some space, sleep on it, reflective, right? When people are tense, people are stressed, when people are afraid, they react with less foresight about the consequences and about that there's less time to think about options and weigh things and allow for creative solutions to pop into our brains. So to be able to um, offer energetically from from a particular posture, right? To offer that energy of respect and of reverence, like, hey, I don't know you, but you're important, and you're somebody's kid. You're somebody. You could be somebody's spouse, somebody's parent. You're loved by somebody, and you know that being something very palpable in us. It's a very different way of existing than being super critical and cutthroat and not caring and who are you? You're a nobody, and all the different language that comes with it about people being snowflakes, and we all understand that people could toughen up. It's not about that, but it's just in terms of how we expect to get the best out of each other. And I just don't see that coming from harsh critiques of others, nor do I see it coming from the demonization and calling everybody evil and things like that. I'm not arguing. This video is not going to be about the existence of evil and all the dimensions of it. It's just that when it comes to this channel and what I hope to convey in these videos, even if at times I am critical, and we are at times. And there's nothing wrong necessarily about having the ability to be critical. It's about an over exercising of that um, tension of interpretation, right? Like we start getting critical. You can say the lines, it's what I said, you can tell a lot about a person by the lines in their face, right? And that's man's been critical sometimes in his life. Oh yeah, you can see it in somebody's brow. Um, but that's probably not going to make a person feel open and safe and willing to consider with the safety, with the relaxation, with the giving of respect. And the ultimate giving of respect is to turn down any level of threat. You don't want somebody to feel threatened. You know, you like somebody to realize that you're on their side, and we all fall victim to not wanting to be on somebody's side because the side that they're showing is not a side we agree with and we want to align with. But ultimately, we see beyond that, and we sort of wish for the greatest good for that person. And we don't know what it is exactly, but although we're not to tell someone else necessarily how to live their life or to somehow be the judge of it ultimately, um, we have to lean into a certain amount of discernment from our perspective, as limited as it is. Something inside says, I don't feel like the best life for you, my friend, my relative, my loved one, my neighbor, my member of society. I don't think the best thing for you is your self-harm, your lack of caring about yourself and your mistreatment of yourself, your lack of self-respect. Um, that is where we have this sort of overlap with the environment, and where as a social creature, a biopsychosocial creature, as George Engel uh, says we are. And you can look up George Engel, but part of part of that is our interaction with the social world, and how much we expect the social world to accept our lack of self-respect, versus trying to actually use its discernment of intervening and using its wisdom to save us to its best, crudest way, you know. Um, that's I think that's like a something we bump up against in a sense. So when it comes to respecting others, that does not mean that we agree with everything they do, or that we consider that every lifestyle is equal in terms of its outcomes for a particular person. That um, that we're not forced into any of that. That we could discern that one lifestyle is going to lead to a different type of ending than another, and we can discern that option A tends to be favored by most people over option B. And we can do all of that without it necessarily being an ultimate judgment of someone. Um, we don't know how it ends up for that person. We can say that, smoking a bunch of cigarettes isn't good. It's not very respectful to oneself. Um, but no one can exactly say what will happen to that person who does that thing to their body. Even with all the statistics in the world, they may be the exception. That may be something that is their path in life. It's something. I'm not saying that it's good, but all I'm saying is that we have to allow for exception into a lot of the things that could seem somewhat obvious to us. And that's where, when it comes to respect and reverence towards others, and notions of, there's all these trigger words of tolerance, what we kind of overlook, what we don't like, what we accept, but some things maybe we don't accept, but we don't punish, things we maybe accept, but we don't celebrate. There's a lot of that nuance there. Um, when it comes to respecting others and respecting ourselves, if we feel differently than someone else, and we uh, aren't honest about that, we can be a little bit disrespectful towards our genuine feelings about things. And sometimes society's trying to force us into feeling particular ways about things that we don't. And sometimes we can have a reaction to where we become overly resistant to, like, let's say that the societal message has a negative embedded, it's something embedded that's negative, but on the surface it's positive, and we recognize that, and we fight against that the thing that's embedded underneath. We could kind of forget that there's something to be remembered about the surface level truth. Okay, so evil, it's or darkness, or whatever this thing is that we struggle with, that we don't like. It has a way of cloaking itself and disguising itself in something that looks nice, that sounds good, that can't even be argued with, that's so obvious, but yet something underneath is hidden in there, like a Trojan horse kind of. And dismantling that can be hard because there can be multiple levels of what's going on. And all I'm saying is that in order to be respectful, we have to give ourselves a sense of patience, and we got to give this to other people because there's a lot to unpack. And people arguing about things from just different levels of the conversation, different layers of the onion, that's just adding problems. The more we can relax and build rapport with each other, the more we can treat each other well, take the devil horns off of each other's heads, take the halos off of each other's heads. Respect that as animals, sometimes we're competing and sometimes we get into our dominance plays and things like that. And just being able to respect that in ourselves and others and know how to dial out of it without demonizing everything, without staying focused on it, right? Knowing how I always think that part of the way we respect each other is that we soften our gaze. We look at each other through gentler eyes and interpretive lenses. We, the eyes of grace, the eyes of love, like we're seeing things into existence. The way we look at things impacts them. You give something the evil eye, it gets nervous. And some people love doing that to people. It's mean and it creates like almost like primal uneasiness. That's why poker face, I don't think that poker face is the way to go about one's life. You might find yourself, experiencing a sense of being powerful because you see people's insecurities arise because you practice blankness. And blankness is meant to make people like, what is going on? I get no read on you. That doesn't mean that person's insecure. It just means that they've been placed in a situation where they can't be as secure. And there's a difference. So if we're constantly trying to make people instinctually uneasy and they do that, then, oh, aren't we special, right? Like, that's not how we want to treat people. So I believe that what people thirst for, what people long for, and what people will come back for more of is some level of human respect, something that silently acknowledges the dignity of another person, um, and presence, being available, being able to concentrate, being able to receive, to listen. These abilities to slow things down, to not be almost kidnapped by the energy of the culture that's like it's in a runaway train and it's stretching its arm out to grab every little child of God that each of us is up in its arms and take us away with its pace headed towards destructiveness. Like that, us knowing how to find our pace in a world that is, you know, so accelerating and willing to pace us in every way. There's freedom in that. And when it comes to respecting each other, treating each other with reverence, we want to free each other. We want to be free. And part of that is not being captured by the spirit of disrespect and the spirit of cancellation and the spirit of critical consciousness, critical looking into everything like your face got to like sour. sourness, looking down on things. If we stand on the shoulders of giants, which we all do, previous generations have built the wonderful world in which we live. We stand on the accomplishments and the blood, sweat, and tears of countless other people, countless generations. And when you're standing on the shoulders of giants, how easy is it to look down on them? Disrespecting our roots, disrespecting where we come from, disrespecting ancestors, disrespecting animal ancestors, because we're part of a big family. Disrespecting the earth, the whole thing. Disrespect tends to be um, one of the in Christian context, it might be called like a griever of the spirit. It makes it's deflating. It's deflating. Um, and yeah, we don't much come to life from that, right? We instead deflate. So I think I'll move towards ending this now. I want to say one more thing, and that is respect towards aspects of ourselves that we don't think of as ourselves, because what we think of as ourselves is our conscious, egoic, our ego. And ego has a very important role, and disrespecting ego isn't the solution to the ego's lack of respect toward a greater consciousness of the body that has been called the unconscious. Um, but is consciousness just of a different form, just of a different kind? Um, Stephen Pauline Richards of the Institute for Psychosystems Analysis and the YouTube channel Jung to Live By, they discuss the non-ego consciousness. So it's consciousness, but it's not ego consciousness, and it's expressing itself to the ego. And the ego is to receive. And the ego is to adapt to the outside world and to receive from the inside and to find that balance of keeping everything nice and harmonious. And we have things that are needed beyond the conscious mind. And if we don't fulfill those needs, if we don't respect those signals, like my back hurts, I need to get up out of this chair. Conscious mind says, I got work to do. I got other things that are more important. You're just going to have to deal with it. Here's some medicine. Like, you know, what I'm getting at is that relationship is not how I just demonstrate. It's not a respectful relationship necessarily to the lower back. Now, we might have to sit longer than we want to sometimes. That's part of life. But we can do so with a greater sense of respect. Kind of like when a child, we have to get that child to do something it doesn't want to. The more we're able to kind of respect it going through what it doesn't prefer, often the better result we're going to get from the child. So the whole thing here is just respecting emotions, respecting sensation, respecting intuition, that gut feeling, and a sense of respecting that in others as well, knowing that every time we see somebody, we're witnessing a person that's trying to discern all those signals they're receiving from the inside and from the outside, and they're trying to, in many ways, like a conductor, they're balancing several things like somebody in a circus. And we live in a more complicated time than our ancestors did, so we could respect that about each other, that people are under stressors and environmental stressors. And I'm not talking about just pollutants, but they're experiencing a frustration of their what is sometimes called the environment of evolutionary adaptedness. That's what we're designed to be in, is in what's called an environment of evolutionary adaptedness. That's what we're adapted to be in. The world we're living in is not that kind of world. It's very different than what our ancestors have lived in for, um, you know, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, however long it has been. Most of the time, humans were nomadic, hunting, gathering. For a shorter period of time, they were agrarian. Then you had the Industrial Revolution. Now you got this hyper technological world that's much more interconnected and much more codependent. We could say interdependent, but there's a lot of codependency, which is part of why the system is so uh, challenged. The point is, we live in a complicated world that's very different than what we're actually designed to be in for the most part, right? Evolutionarily, this is a blip on the screen this past 100 years, 150 years, 200 years. Since the Industrial Revolution, let's say, things have really accelerated, and our biology can't necessarily keep up with this. We're still animals. So the technology can improve a lot quicker because it doesn't have it's not um it's not like us, and we're meant for slower, more paced growth. So we have to remember our biological rhythms and clocks, our natural life cycle, um, and where we are typically in our stages of development, which is so very important. So we have to respect our life cycle. We have to respect the fact that we're not here forever, that life is precious. And the more we realize the value of life, and we realize also the value of our energy, which is precious, we respect our energy, we respect others' energy, the more we're going to see human flourishing, the more we're going to see things coming to life. Hopefully, the more we're going to bring out the best in those around us and hopefully attract the best in others toward us. So, yeah, thank you for watching this video today. I encourage you to respect yourself, take care of yourself, show yourself some love, and from there, allow that to be something that spills over like a cup that, as they say, runneth over. Um, yeah, when we respect ourselves, we naturally start respecting others more. Uh, so, again, thank you so much. Namaste. Wishing you a wonderful day.